Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Innovation Hub. Please come join us. We're going to have a conversation about home studios when it's more than just video conferencing. And leading that panel is the famous Chris Netto. You know him, you love him from Twitter. He hosts AV in the AM. He works at Starin. He's here at the show in the IMCCA booth. Chris, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. My name's Chris. Thank you, Megan, for that wonderful introduction.
Hey, Chris.
I'm honored and privileged to have some very, very important guests with us. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves first. Go ahead, start with you, Mr. Sorrentino.
Oh, Mr. Sorrentino. Hi, my name is Gary Sorrentino. I'm currently the CIO for Zoom. I've been in technology about, almost 43 years now, mostly on Wall Street. And after my first retirement, I met Eric and started at Zoom about just pre-pandemic, and it's been an unbelievable 3 years.
Yeah. Y'all know what Zoom is, right? This is not like the first time you're hearing about this. All right, cool. That's good. I'm at a residential show, so I have to ask the question. We work in a corporate space, so being a corporate audiovisual person and being in the residential market is, it's different. But we're going to tell you a little bit about video conferencing and what people are doing in the residential space, or maybe something you haven't been thinking about for your residential markets. Next, we have Mr. Danto. You want to go ahead and I'm just flabbergasted. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Danto. I beat Gary by 1 year. I'm going to be celebrating my 44th year trying to figure out what it is, what I want to be when I grow up. The first half of my career was in broadcasting. I built all of Mike Bloomberg's TV and radio stations, and I was the director of engineering for Financial News Network before we sold it to CNBC. And then the second half of my career was more on the unified communications and collaboration side for banks. Gary and I worked together at the same bank, although we didn't interact at the same time. And I'm now working for Poly as their director of UC Strategy and Research.
Yep.
Poly is the company. We're kind of over there that makes some headsets and video conferencing gear, and the combination of Polycom and Plantronics.
Yeah. And while you're at it, you're also, can you tell us your title about the IMCCA?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that part. The IMCCA, which is right over there, it's the nonprofit Interactive Multimedia and Collaborative Communications Alliance. We're bringing all the work from home education to this show. I wrote most of the programs here, so if you hate them, it's my fault, and if you like them, it's my fault. And if you're not a member, you should join imcca.org. It's free. It's good. It's nonprofit. We make sure that the education is agnostic and not sales pitches. And it's a good group of people. The executive director, Carol Zelkin's right over there. You should go over and say hi and join the organization.
Okay. Well, thank you. So let's start talking about video conferencing. Everybody here is familiar with Zoom. I've asked that question. So when the pandemic started, a lot of folks left the home or their safe home of corporate and went home to do home video conferencing. They joined in on calls from home. Something that was very different, very radical, in that the years before that, a lot of people were not able to continue working. They would go home and just wait it out, right? So now a product like Zoom comes into play, and Zoom made it easy for video conferencing to happen. If you've ever used Zoom before, it's a very simple way to connect via video conferencing back to your folks. So we all got that down. But then what we started to see, and I'm a distributor, so I sell products to integrators such as yourselves, the Poly products, the Jabra products. Zoom obviously is what the cloud that everybody is using. So we are all part of that integration kind of ecosystem. But what we started to discover in talking to residential integrators is that the market changed from just calling back to your office, and we started hearing from content creators. Yes, not just the 16-year-olds doing podcasts from their mom's basement, but adults that for one point or another were great at making pasta sauce and took that pasta sauce and showed how they made it using their cell phone. That elevated because now they have 1 million subscribers. And how do you do that? So we started seeing an evolution. Kitchens started to have PTZ cameras, point tilt zoom cameras on ceilings, focusing right in on over their ovens. That was not something that happened before. And one of the things that we also saw was that there was a live version of it. The master classes started popping up with actors and famous people and musicians giving classes. This is all made possible by the video conferencing component that Gary brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so much of this happen. I remember during the pandemic, I attended many happy hours, Zoom happy hours, and there were cameras in the bars at the time pointed at the bartender who was teaching us how to make drinks. And for those who don't know, Zoom has a product called OnZoom, and the OnZoom product is where we allow people to teach the world, teach them what they do best. Charge them if they want, there's a charging component to it, or just teach them what they do best. So, you know, I took a piano lesson on Zoom. I took a guitar lesson on Zoom. More than one lesson I can't do, right? But I've learned how to make a pizza. I've learned how to make mixology. I learned how to shuck oysters. And so I went on Zoom and I looked at all of these different classes. And the part that I liked about it is there's two kinds of classes. Record it, okay, so that's more like other products, or live. I can interact. I'm not just learning one side of the screen. There's a human on the other side of the screen telling me, no, that was the wrong chord, or no, you put too much salt in it. And so we've seen that people want that right now, ad hoc interaction. And a lot of those that I did, it wasn't planned. It was at my time. I just pushed the button and said, I want to learn how to make pasta, and someone came on the other side and said, I'm ready to show you now, right now at your time. And so it kind of changed the world of the way we look at it, where now things could be done ad hoc. It wasn't about being planned. It wasn't that next Tuesday at 5 o'clock I'm going to do it. It's 8 o'clock on a Monday night. I have nothing to do. I want to learn how to do it now. And it kind of changed the world for that whole, I think we call them side hustles.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it kind of changed the whole world, where people are now teaching the skills that they're good at.
Yeah. So when you have this hobby now turning into a lifestyle, into a new career, you know, things that are capturing the world right now in terms of headlines is, you know, obviously people are leaving jobs and starting jobs. A lot of people have actually left their jobs and their side hustle is their job, right? For the integrators that are in the audience, you know, you're looking at the slide and we're talking about, you know, the equipment that's necessary. Yes, there's better cameras. A lot of that has to do with that the content that is being pushed out is better. You have something like Zoom that will maintain that connection throughout the entire broadcast. And these content creators are taking things that, you know, would have just been a hobby and now monetizing it and be able to do it. So as integrators, y'all need to look at the opportunities that are there. We've seen Airbnbs be converted to executive retreats. So the beach house that sits empty, people are turning that, putting streaming capabilities like Zoom capabilities in the living room so that they can have an executives there talking back to their home offices. We also are starting to see people that are investing in a pole barn and turning that into meeting space that they can bring their entire team and do activities in that space, which they weren't doing before because they have all this extra property to do that sort of stuff. So, David, how does some of the gear that you've seen at this show, like we have a few manufacturers here that are dedicated to this. What do you see how they help these content creators?
Well, it's interesting in that, you know, as you pointed out, when the pandemic started, people needed to grab something to be on. So they were using their built-in phone or iPad camera or PC camera, or if they needed a webcam for their house, they might be going to like to Best Buy or whatever's on Amazon. A lot of things were out of stock, and there were some very inexpensive devices. And the inexpensive devices worked, but they worked. When you know you're going to be creating content, when you know people are going to be watching what you do, it's going to be recorded. People can go to YouTube and watch it anytime, even if it's, you know, a video of how to repair a car or how to make pasta sauce or anything else. You want to start with a high quality at the beginning. It also is a tenet that comes back from my broadcast days. You want to make sure that the quality is as superb as possible early on, because as it goes down the chain of distribution, it degrades. So you want to make sure you have at least, I mean, you're showing us some pictures there, at least a 4K camera. I use the camera in the middle of that screen right now, which is the Poly P15. Happens to be a great 4K camera for conferencing and for recording. You use something more like on the top. You decided to switch over to a DSLR to get you the highest quality.
I'm fancy.
There. Right, but again, you start with the highest quality piece you can.
Yeah.
You set yourself up so that the image coming from the camera by itself is not good enough. Do you have lighting on you? Do you have the right lighting on you? What are you using for sound? I find that the sound either coming from a headset or the P15 device is perfectly adequate for the things that I'm doing. A lot of people don't agree with that. If you look at Tim at home, right? He's not home today. Tim Albright at AV Nation. If you look at what Chris does, they're typically using a separate broadcast microphone on a stand to get that highest possible quality. And the goal is do it in a way that gives you that really good quality, so that whatever you're recording to, whether it's to the cloud or YouTube or some other content channel, and I know Zoom's got some content channels as well, just give it the best possible quality you can. It isn't really hard if you're comfortable talking about a subject, just as the three of us are comfortable talking about this. Sit down in front of a camera, teach yourself to look at the camera. Yeah. It's hard. You kind of want to look at the screen. Don't. Look at the camera, and all of a sudden you're a content creator.
Yep. Just be prepared, because I'm about to burst your bubble, okay?
Happens all the time.
Prior to coming here, getting on stage, I had to thank Gary, because after 20 years of being in this kind of business, my mom knows what I do now because she'll Zoom me. So I tried explaining to my mom what I did for 20 years, never understood. She thought I was a cable guy, right? Do TVs, hang TVs, right, Dave? We have a hard time explaining what we do. There we go. So thank you for helping bring Zoom into the world as a verb.
The add-on to that, and taking off with David
And I'm going to burst.
is,
I do want to burst his bubble.
well, just give me a second. Is that really what we need to do? Is we need to have the technology in place that's transparent.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a content provider. I don't want to worry about camera placement. I want the camera to worry about camera placement. I don't want to worry about audio feedback. I want the system to worry about audio feedback, right? This is what we got to give away to the providers and everyone here to make it so that I can do my job best, which is content provider.
Yeah. And speaking on that, the cameras that know where to look, and microphones that know how to give you better quality audio, where my bubble bursting was going to happen was that, yes, you can have a great camera. Yes, you can have a great speaker. But there are things that people are not aware of that Zoom does every day that's part of what they do. Like, you pick up your phone right now and you may be able to Zoom to your coworker or to your mom, and you hit connect call and that's it. There are little features that are there.
So I have this thing I talk about Zoom, and I know Zoom probably hates this, so I hope we're not recording it. But everybody out there has been on a
Say that louder so they're recording.
Shut the camera.
This is like no camera report. Everybody's been on a Zoom call at least once, right? You say at least once?
Yeah.
Some nods? Okay, if I asked you the features you use, it's probably start meeting, end meeting.
Yeah.
Right? But there's about 400 features built in that meeting. And today there is so much in there, like you talked about looking good on camera. There are people that go actually into what is called video touch-up. They darken their hair. They darken their... I did a video one day, and the guy said, your mustache is not the same coloring. I said, hold on. Click, click, click. It was all black. He goes, how'd you do that? I go, don't worry about it. It's called Zoom Touch-Up. So there's so many things in the product, but then there's so many ways that people haven't used the product that we're looking at. Such as, like, think about what you guys do. Okay, so you're integrators, right? You go to people's homes, you go to enterprises, you go to install something. What if the person you send can't finish the integration? Well, tomorrow you send someone else. A lot of people are sending that person with a Zoom call and realware, which is just glassware. Now, when the person gets in trouble, he puts on his glasses. We can send him through Zoom schematics, instructions, but more importantly, we can have someone in his ear and his eye helping him, so you don't have to send the person the next day. And we're seeing this in so many places right now, right? Where, so I have a car vendor, a car dealer, and he said, Zoom can't help me. I said, sure he can. I said, imagine this, I'm on your site and I'm trying to buy one of your used Jeeps, and there's a great still picture. I'm not gonna buy something online from one picture. I wanna know how it drives. He goes, well, I'll go outside with FaceTime, and I go, why wouldn't you put realware on, run around the car, and then get in the car and drive it? And I'll be on Zoom and I'll watch you the whole time. So today, it's all about, really about, how do we move beyond the parts that we know? It's all about our own creativity, and I think that's the part that we lost towards the end of the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were so creative. We made it work. We worked in bathrooms. We worked on one side of the couch. You know, one significant other had the left side, one had the right side. We all made it work. But as we're coming out of the pandemic, I see that our creativity is getting stifled, and we have feature-rich applications and hardware that we're just not exploiting. And I hate the fact that, you know, we've all had spreadsheets on our desks for 20 years, and we're still only using 2% of that tool.
Yeah. There is a whole host of features that you go into, and little stupid things. Because you asked me, and I think I knew it all. I mean, I've been using it for the last 4 years, and sadly I don't. You know, knowing that you can tap a space
You
bar to
struggle to get to the second one.
exactly. So I'm not that good. As a matter of fact, I failed. I'm going to leave the podium right now. I don't deserve to be speaking about this. So what else, David? What can a residential integrator benefit from, you know, taking good hardware, obviously. You take quality cameras, quality microphones, because it's not something that residential folks typically worry about. Unless it's on the security side, cameras are not part of your vernacular. So you take a good camera, 4K camera, good audio, right? What difference does that make? Because I have my own personal experience of how updating my work from home setup led to me standing out on video, and to the point where, you know, I can comfortably host webinars and seminars for my company. I can do training. That's a benefit that I can do now, and I can do it the right way, as opposed to, you know, kind of a hodgepodge kind of mix that I had before.
Well, you got to walk down the logical plank to understand the opportunity that's in front of all of the residential integrators and the people who serve the space. And stay with me just for a second, and I'll go through it as quickly as I can. Every meeting going forward for every company everywhere in the world is probably going to have at least one remote person going forward. That's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are putting video setups in their home already. So if you're in the residence and you're putting in a video setup, how much harder is it to put a nice camera in and put some nice lighting in? Now, hopefully you're working with their company if it's a medium to large business, if it's an enterprise, and there are standards and they're putting in the standards. In order for us to feel comfortable about working from home, we have to have a place to go to. It's okay for Gary or I or any of us to take a call on our phone while we're here at a trade show or when we're with family or whatever. We're helping our colleagues, but that's not working. Working in your mind, you go to a place, a fixed desk, a workstation, whatever it is, and you have to have a place to go to. All right, so everybody's got to have a camera. Everybody's got to have some decent lighting and sound. Everybody's got to have a place to go to. How much harder is it to put in a couple of lights and to make sure the acoustics are okay, and then train the people whose home you're putting this into? Here's how you create content on YouTube. Here's how you create content on Zoom. What's your favorite specialty? What do you know about? Is it repairing cars? Is it making pasta sauce? Is it you've just learned how to do all this video and how to install home audio or any of the other systems? Why don't you speak to front of the camera, create some of this content? Are you with an organization? There were a couple of ones you had up on the slide over there, like HETMA, the higher education group, or the local PTA or whatever. Create the content, put it out there, because you've already got the starting place where everybody's got a studio at home.
I can speak from my own personal experience. My son is a Taekwondo, I guess, student. His class is quickly transformed into remote. So he was taking karate via the pandemic at home using a video board with built-in Zoom, so classes via Zoom. Obviously, you know this all because if you have children, most of them went on Zoom to do their education and all that sort of stuff. There's opportunities in that business. Who would have thought that karate schools would have been a home for unified communications, and it became
karate
one.
Schools, dancing,
Yes.
yoga, education,
Yep.
guitar lessons, piano lessons,
Yes.
everything is an opportunity.
So I have just a random question for you, Gary. Do you see the video component becoming as essential as lights and
Video's the new voice.
video's the new voice?
Video's the new voice. We're all going to communicate over video going forward. You know, we were talking about, even as some of the integrators you put in these high-end rooms and even personal homes. Well, when we talk to those people who can afford to put those homes in, they want to contact you when they have a problem over video. They don't want to do it on the phone and then you give them, they want to see you. And today, like you said, your mom, my mom videos me too. She stopped calling me on my cell phone. She's 92 years old, and I get Zoom calls from Gilda all the time, right? But the problem is, she said, it's such a more interaction with you. She gets to see, and when the pandemic hit, you know, Eric was very clear with us. He said enterprises need to work, healthcare needs to work, people need to learn, students need to learn, but most important, families need to see that families are safe. It's one thing to hear when you hear from your son or daughter, I'm okay, Mom. It's another thing to see them. And so video is really the new voice, and I think we're going to see everything be incorporated with some sort of video component. Automation's going to have video in it. I think we're going to see cars will have video in it, and pretty soon they'll be able to phone home on their own. So I really think video is the new voice.
Yeah, that's a pretty good prediction. I will agree with that. David, what's your thoughts on that?
Video is the new voice was a tremendously terrific slogan from Tandberg 15 or 16 years ago. And it took a global pandemic and the horror of everything went through to show people this stuff's easy and it works.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of knows that now. So we're past that point. Now that we know it's easy, now that we know that it works, now that we have the gear to do it, how do we take it to the next phase and make it something that people can have fun with and experiment with?
Yeah. And the last question I want to leave for folks that are here on the residential side as integrators, how can Zoom help them? If you are an integrator, we were kind of chatting off to the side about this, how can you add Zoom into your everyday workflow if you are a residential integrator?
Yeah, so I think on a residential integrator, think about it. You might want to incorporate into whatever solution a small video screen. This way, whoever's using your product can ask you for help. You know, I was running around a couple of the booths here, and I happened to install one of the products. And he said to me, "How'd you like it?" I said, "The product worked well." He goes, "What didn't you like?" Tech support. He said, "Why?" "Well, I couldn't see them. I was talking to them. We had no interaction. They were telling me how to do things. I wanted to see the menu I was going through, and it became very kludgy." I said, "But you already have a video component in your device. Why wouldn't you incorporate it that I could Zoom you? I could call you over," and Zoom, of course I work for Zoom, but I could get a video component in there, and I can actually interact with your tech support team. I got to tell you this, your NPS scores will go up. Great product. Wish your support could go up more. So there's so many different ways that we can incorporate the power of these video platforms. The only thing I ask people to do is learn about what you own. You own the Maseratis, forget which brand you use. You own the Maseratis of video conferencing. We're all driving them like Priuses, right? We got to figure out how do we get that high-level functionality that's built in, all the new features that are built in, all the new functionality out into the open and use.
Yeah. How about you, David? What is your tip for the residential integrators that are looking to take UC into their conversations and workflows, not necessarily from a meeting perspective, but where can they bring that in? Gary mentioned support. Is that the place where you could see best use?
Well, the most important thing to understand, it actually goes from the enterprise down. Very briefly, you need to put systems into people's homes that can be remotely supported. They need to be able to be monitored, not watching keystrokes to make sure they're working or looking in or hearing in what's going on. That's Big Brother. I don't mean that, but is it on? Is it connected?
Yeah.
Does it have bandwidth? Does it have the latest update? If you're looking at installing personal systems, install personal systems that are monitorable by the enterprise so that when they call the help desk, they can look at it and they can make sure that it works or not.
Yeah.
And you can take a peek at a few of those down at the Poly booth. We've got a whole set of personal systems that meet that criteria.
Yeah. And if you want, there's a Zoom booth down the way right here behind, and where you see the IMCCA banner hanging. You can go there. They can actually show you what a virtual attendant looks like. I mean, that in itself was something that nobody ever thought would ever been possible. But virtual attendance is something that can happen, and it's very doable, very simple.
Hoteling, find your hoteling queue by clicking on the phone. It's some really good stuff.
Yeah. The hoteling conversation is something you hear in the corporate space. So as the show starts to add a commercial component, and you're doing the hotels, but hoteling in corporate is a very hot topic right now. People don't want a desk, an assigned desk, so finding a space within that floor to where you can work would be the best. So yes, that's a great opportunity for it. I'm about to get hit with the 1-minute warning, and we are just about coming to an end. David, where can we find out more information about IMCCA and you?
imcca.org, poly.com, or if you want to find any more information about me, my last name is Danto. Just type in danto.info on any browser, and you can get all of my history.
Gary?
And it's zoom.us, and if you want to call me directly, it's gary.sorrentino at zoom.us.
Yeah. You gave him a direct line.
Line.
What other CIO will give you that? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Netto. I am with Starin. I am happy to be here representing IMCCA and part of the commercial AV group that's here talking. Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great show. Thank you so much.